Hello everyone, Pacefest here, doing another build guide on a bow class, the Hunter. This is a build that focuses on doing area of effect attacks. This unit can absolutely eliminate a large portion of enemies by itself, while also filling your Valor points to maximum. This build is fantastic. I love it. And I would recommend doing this right from the beginning. And I highly recommend everything that comes with it. I'm going to talk about the early game and what you can do in the early game. I'm going to talk about late game, and we're going to go over the equipment, the attributes, the skill tree, and professions and things like that. We'll go over all of it. I've never seen a bow class do what this one can do. I stopped using single target bows after discovering this. The Hunter is a class that you can get early on. By far, this is the best class for this type of build out of all of the archers. This does use a lot of Pirates of Belerion DLC stuff. So before we go any further, let's talk about the professions. The professions I recommend are going to be Thief, Tinkerer, or Alchemist. Thief will get you 4 Dexterity, 6% critical hit chance. Tinkerer will get you 12% critical hit chance at Master level. And Alchemist will give you 10 Dexterity at Master level, giving you flat damage. So those are the 3 professions I recommend for the build. The weapon. The Ilharian Bow is from the Pirates of Belerion, and you get these from Quartermasters, and you want to keep an eye out for 3-star versions, and they seem to drop pretty frequently. If you're having trouble getting it to drop, don't forget that you can use Bear Stew to increase equipment drops. In addition, you can do the Banner Respect for the Enemy, which earns more loot after battle, and that'll help you get this to drop. Late game, you're going to be using the Ilharian Bow. It gives you plus 118 dex. And I recommend putting Explosive Oil and Propulsion on this. Alternatively, you could do something like Paralyzing Oil. Propulsion Oil on this particular bow is interesting because this bow deals an area of effect damage, a high amount by the way, to all units in the area and knocks them back 2 meters. Propulsion Oil, whenever this unit knocks an enemy back, they have a 50% chance to apply destabilization, which reduces their guard to 0. So even tanks can't even stand up to this. The only one that can really stand up to this, the only unit, is a unit with the shield that reduces projectile attacks by 90%. That's the only unit in the game this guy can even struggle to kill. Everything else is fodder. It's just amazing. Explosive Oil. Every time this skill deals damage, every time a skill deals damage, it has a 50% chance to explode, dealing 50% of damage next to enemies to the target. So it's like a 2-meter explosion or something like that. It's not very big, but at the start of the match, when everything's all clumped up and close together, this thing can actually put out some damage, especially when it comes to like rat nests and things like that. So those are the oils I recommend. Early game, before we go any further about the equipment. Early game, I recommend that you find and fight Alazarians, because they drop this bow called the Alazarian Bow, and this has the Mud Sling ability. When you see the archers that shoot the mud out and blast your people and everybody's real slow, yeah, that sucks. So early on in my playthrough, I was like, you know what? I really like the AoE archer. I'm going to try this out. So most people think of the bandit flaming bow attack. Well, that sucks because it has a very small area effect. However, the Mud Sling Bow has a 13-meter area of effect. That's huge, and it creates a puddle of mud under the enemies. Early game, I was using this to zone out entire sections of the enemy team that was like tanky or high damage or stuff I didn't want to deal with, I could just use the Mud Sling ability on an entire section of units to slow them down and take them out of the fight until the following round. Caveat here is, if you take the Alazarian Bow and you apply Paralyzing Oil, has a 50% chance to apply slowdown to the target. So now when you shoot a group of enemies, not only do you put mud underneath them, but you also slow their movement by another 50%, which is what mud does. So now you take the enemy movement and you slash it to a quarter of what it could be. So now the enemies can't even get close to you. So I was able to just use my archers early game to decimate an entire side of the field without ever being able to be clapped back on, because the enemies just can't move in mud plus slowdown. Fantastic, by the way. Early game, I highly recommend the Alazarian Bow with Paralyzing Oil. And it is disgusting. So that's the early game. What I recommend for the belt item is quality projectiles, tool horn, if you want to take the 10% damage, if you want to take the 1 movement speed for 10% damage. But once you get quality projectiles, that's just a straight upgrade to the tool horn. Alternatively, you could use something like Legionary's Oath, increasing your damage by 5% per attack executed until the end of the turn. Typically, you're only going to get 10% off of this anyway, and then when you do your last attack, you'll have 15% for like your wrath attack, which is kind of useless. Or you could do wrath early if you have a low HP enemy, and that would give you 15%, but it's just not really worth it to manage that. So I recommend just quality projectiles. It's about as good as you're going to get. For the helmet, we're using the Rover's outfit, and we're just using the outfit altogether for the optimized gear for the 10% bonus to its stats. The chest piece, we are using Siren brooches, which gives plus 10 dexterity each. These are from the Pirates of Belerion tracker camp. And they give you 10 dexterity minus 9 armor each. So we get 30 dex minus 18 armor, but you can still see that at the end game you have 245. It's not a big deal. The damage, however, is insane because we have 264 dex and 148 is just from our bow and our chest piece. The helmet we are using is the Rover's Turban. It's a 3-star helmet, level 16. Got plus 1 willpower, plus 1 range. The armor itself also gives plus 1 willpower, plus 1 range. I highly recommend the range armors if you can find them. If you have a mismatched set, it's not going to affect you much. For the helmet stamp, we are using stimulating coating because as long as we have no debuff on this unit, our damage is increased by another 20%. That's insane. So we're just getting 30% damage on 264 dex, and the damage is phenomenal. As for the attributes, I recommend going... You don't need a lot of movement on this character because you can use other characters to increase the movement. So we only have a base value of 14 movement on this character, plus 2 from the armor, so 16 movement base. And then we're using some food to give him an additional 2. So right now we only have 18 movement. It's not a lot. You don't need a lot because your damage is going to speak for itself. Right now we're sitting at a base of 51 without really any food. So that's pretty damn good. We pump a lot of dexterity. Of course, as always, you want 15 base willpower. And our dexterity is a base of 59 plus master, plus our equipment, plus our food item, Hill Delights, adding an additional 53. So for the skills on this guy, early game, I recommend Valorous support when you're doing like the Alazarian Mud Sling Bow thing, because your damage isn't going to be that high. The damage on the AoE unit early on is pretty low, which is why I was using it for crowd control with the Mud Sling and the Paralyzing Oil. So Valorous support early on is super good. Making this unit a lieutenant so that they have the tactical order skill is really, really good, because this unit is going to be starting around your other units. You can use it then, or you can use it at the end of the turn after you've unloaded all of your salvos to make your other units more effective at combat and gaining valor points. Later on, once you get confident in your damage and you're able to start killing people on the regular, I recommend swapping over to Valorous Victory. Typically, you want to do this when you get one of the Pirates of Belerion DLC bows. The Ilharian Bow is pretty good. It's actually probably the best in slot. And then you also get options for like pirate bows. These have a smaller radius on their attacks. They go 13 meters, the same as the Alazarian Bow. I like the Ilharian Bow for the knockback in combination with propulsion, giving enemies destabilization. This allows a ranged unit to put the guard on tanks down to 0, so they take full damage from all your attacks. Very efficient, very effective. Once you get one of these Pirates of Belerion DLC bows, it's time to swap to Valorous Victory. So every time you get a kill, you get a valor point. This unit can easily get so many kills that you fill your valor bar all the way up. At level 3, you're going to take Hunter, which is going to give you recoil shot, which is a line-based area effect. You can use this recoil shot skill in conjunction with aim, increasing your range by double. So you can use this recoil shot to hit like 7 enemies, 8 enemies in a line. And it also applies slowdown to the first target hit, which is good early game for crowd control with the Mud Sling Bow. Level 5, we're going to get Precision. Every 2 attacks, you're going to apply Vulnerability, and this also gives you Fury once you level it up. At level 8, you need to unlock the Marksman class, and you do that in Ludern at the fishery all the way in the north. There's a guy there after you beat the arena. You talk to him, and he'll give you the Marksman class, which will give you easy prey. It deals 50% increased damage to targets that are not adjacent to any other target. At the start of the round, everybody's going to be spread out just a little bit. So easy prey is an easy way to get 50% increased damage on your shots. Level 10, we're going to just go raw, balls to the wall damage. We're going to take Lone Wolf for an extra 10% damage dealt and damage taken. At level 12, we're going to choose the best Bravery skill in the game, and that is Suppressive Fire. It deals a low amount of damage and applies slowdown to all enemies in the area for 1 round. So not only do you blast an entire area, but you also make it so they can't move, which is a great way to just absolutely control the battle if your damage isn't there. So that's the skill tree for this unit. All right, let's go try this bad boy out in combat. Going up against a level 16 bandit force. All right, so let's do Suppressive Fire first. Just hit this large group of enemies right here. Already killed 1 guy. Come over here. We're going to aim. $14.52 on a crit. Alright, we can see that all these enemies are grouped up nice and tight for us. So we're going to lay down some covering fire. And you want to lay down covering fire on areas you want to crit. So the boss is in the top right up here. He's right there. So we want to lay a suppression down there so we slow him down. And the next time he gets hit, we'll apply a critical hit. Go ahead and tactical order. We'll come here. Let's go ahead and just hit a group of enemies here so I can get some more Valor points. You can see that the area effect on this is insane. Whoops. We hit one of our own guys. It's fine. We're going to use aim. Now look at the aim. Look how far we can shoot with our line attack for recoil shot. Couple thousand damage there. The boss is still standing. That's okay. None of these units are low enough for us to shoot with Wrath, so we're just going to back out. So these flaming bows at the beginning of the game, they don't have a very big area of effect. So I don't really recommend those. Alright, we got some buffs on this unit. Let's see what happens when we go with a little bit of buffs here. We're going to start off by Suppressive Fire. Suppressive Fire does not hit your allies, only enemies. We just killed a bunch of people. Valor points are insane right now. Aim. My allies in the way here. Let's just move forward. Aim at these 5. 1,400 damage on some of these. And the boss is right here. Let's go ahead and take him down. 1,500 damage to the boss. Some of these guys are low HP. Let's go ahead and shoot one of them in the face. 1,300 damage. Insane for an AoE archer. Okay, we are buffed with a little bit of juice here. Going to fire off Suppressive Fire. I have an ally in this red circle, but they're not going to take damage because Suppressive Fire only hits enemies. And we're up against level 16 guards. All those crits, man. We even killed a person just with that shot with Suppressive Fire. We're going to come over here. We're going to aim. Increasing our range with this shot. Go one more step over. We can hit all of these units. 7 enemies here. 2,000 damage. Wow. We'll shoot. Usually you can get 5 or 6 enemies with these shots. Yeah, let's go for the 5. 1,700 damage to a tank, and the explosive oil procs. Insane. Is there anybody close enough to death that we can shoot? Maybe this guy over here. We will tactical order. We will run over here. We'll shoot this guard in the face. 430 damage without a crit. Nice. And we got full Valor almost off of that. We killed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 enemies. Had I crit with all of them, I could have killed every single person. Thank you guys again for joining me for another build guide. The Hunter is fantastic, and it's going to be a great addition to your arsenal, and you'll probably never use single target bows again. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I appreciate those who do. It helps the channel grow, and I'll see you next time on Wartales.